Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Bunch of Notes podcast. This is Dan. I'm here with Big Cass, and we got Carson, our buddy Carson. Long time since we've had him on. But
Well,
it's great to have him back on, our Silver Bulletin colleague, and just a recruiting guru. But welcome to the show. Obviously, this show we're dedicating towards recruiting.
thanks, boys. I'm happy to be on. It's must have been, I don't know, probably 2 years or so, maybe even longer.
It was during COVID. I think it was like
Okay.
I remember it was like right before JTT and Emeka committed.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh,
It's
must
Now,
have
about
been
this
that
time
long.
too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's probably about this time too, because obviously June is a huge month for recruiting for Ohio State. And I don't know if any other school recruits as well as Ohio State does in the month of June.
not at the moment, no.
Ryan
I'm
Day.
actually looking at it. It was September 24th, 2020, because we have a pinned tweet, and that's because the season was canceled.
Right, right. All right, now we're back up to speed. There we go. Whole Justin Fields trying to save the Big Ten, trying to save the college football year.
Those are fun times, but they were like crazy. But I mean, Ryan Day though, back to recruiting. Ryan Day has emphasized the importance of June. He said it, on his radio show a couple of weeks ago, that they're really, taking June as, an opportunity to bring people in on official visits. Things are a little slower. Um, and obviously, things are working out. Ohio State landed Bo Lamar Bo Jackson,
That's right.
running back. Carson? What are your thoughts on that?
Real quick,
Um,
Carson, before we get into this, I
Go
found
ahead.
out his real whole full name today on the on the Buck Nuts Morning Five. It is Lamar Michael Jackson. So
There's Michael in there. I thought it was
yeah,
just Lamar Bo Jackson.
yeah. His nickname is
Okay.
Bo though.
All
We're gonna
right.
find out he has a fourth name. It's gonna be like Lamar Michael Samuel L. Jackson or something like that. Just gonna
Well,
be
and you guys know what happens as soon as they get to campus, right? Ohio State's already got, the whole fan base has their own nicknames for him. So it's guaranteed to change at least 3, 4 times just from now to time he actually arrives on campus.
Yeah. So tell us about Bo Jackson. Obviously you're our recruiting. You and Caleb do a great job on the Silver Bulletin with our recruiting. But let's start with Bo Jackson. Tell us about Bo Jackson.
So, for those who don't know, Ohio State has always prioritized Bo Jackson. I think there was a little bit of hesitation kind of from Buckeye Nation thinking that, maybe Bo was leaning Georgia, even up to probably about 3 weeks ago. I can at least address this now. There was never really any hesitation from, Ohio State side. Bo was always prioritized as the number one running back in the class for Ohio State. You are going to see like Davison and Isaiah West still are highly prioritized. I've spoke to a few of my close sources. Ohio State is looking to take 3 running backs in the class, and they had
wow, three.
yeah they had
Wow.
Bo Jackson prioritized at the top of that list. So don't be surprised when you see 3 running backs basically in this class. I think the next one to pop will be Isaiah West. And right now, obviously, he was the Kentucky commit before that. He got up to Columbus, and obviously, a few things might have changed. I think we can expect something here probably pretty shortly from him. And then again, right now we're in a bit of a battle with Jordan Davison with Alabama. So, and that's a modern day kid.
As a recruiter, I mean, Carlos Lachlan, how do you think he's doing compared to Tony Alford? When I look at this guy, I'm just like, this guy is a hoss. Like he
Yeah.
looks like if Brandon Jacobs ate three Brandon Jacobs. He's just a monster, and he's your coach. So, like, I mean, how is he doing with the recruits? I guess is my question.
He's every bit of that 245-pound frame. I'll tell you that right now. No, he's fantastic. He's a different. He's a change of pace from Tony Alford. Tony Alford, someone who is very consistent. He does have a lot of higher energy. Alfred's a guy who gets on players in practice. Locke's a little bit more laid back than that. I'm sure Michigan's probably feeling the brunt of what Ohio State fans have felt the last few years when you think you might be right there for a top level back, and something kind of just doesn't click between the recruit and Coach Alford. Well, obviously that just happened with Bo Jackson. They'll just say it's a kid from Cleveland. It's not really the case. Bo had to do his due diligence with Coach Locke, obviously. So, he's had visits, he's had the chance to sit down with them, get his whole aura and, get a sense of his demeanor as a coach and as a recruiter, obviously. Once he kind of had the chance this past official visit from this past weekend, it kind of reaffirmed everything he had felt over the phone talking to Coach Locke, and that essentially provided him the go ahead and the confirmation that he needed to, ultimately. And his heart even said it. He was always a Buckeye first. He always wanted to be a Buckeye. Grew up cheering for the Buckeyes. But again, big part of that is obviously having, the positional coach to be able to, sit down and show you the game plan for your next 3 to 4 years, 5 years even, right? So once he was able to be affirmed of, Coach Locke's got a plan for me. This is the guy that's going to be working with me in the next 3 to 4 years. He's not going anywhere. Ohio State's the place to be. It basically just confirmed it for Bo Jackson.
I love it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Let's switch.
I'll let you
Yeah.
jump. I'll
No,
let
you're
you.
fine. So obviously I think Isaiah West and Jordan Lewis are huge in the play for running backs. Let's talk a little bit of wide receivers. Um, I know that DeCorian Moore and Jamie French are the huge names. Jamie French just signed an NIL deal with American Eagle. American Eagle, which resides in Pittsburgh. American Eagle, also owned by Schottensteins.
Right.
So a lot of people are now thinking because a couple weeks ago we were all talking in Slack that French might not be the guy that Ohio might not come to Ohio State, but now this high school NIL deal with American Eagle could really catapult maybe you get him into Columbus. But Corey and Moore, obviously the surprise visit from the Sanchez family coming up to help, and he brought like 5 or 6 family members. It sounded like Steve Wilfong is almost on the almost to make that call to Crystal Ball to Corey and Moore. What are your thoughts on those two guys?
Based on what I've been told, and I'll kind of start with the Korean. I'm already there. I've already got my crystal ball hat in. I've already put. I think the Korean Moore's in this class. I've spoken to a few different guys. Ohio State's done everything they needed to. One of the biggest things for him was, again, Ohio State. You're landing in the last class. You have Mylan Graham. You have Jeremiah Smith. It's a loaded room, right? There's no hesitation. There's no doubt about that. It's a loaded room. So he wanted to know where he fit in. The biggest thing was, anybody, again, you're the number one receiver in the country. Anybody can go to Texas, Alabama, Georgia right now as the number one receiver in the country. Probably walk in as a true freshman and get on the field. DeCorian Moore and what Brian Hartline preaches is playing around 5 stars, playing around guys who also were the first, top player in their class per the position. Sorry, those are all guys who are going to make you better, right? When you're practicing with the best, and you talk about BIA, right? You got Devin Sanchez and Naeem Oford, who are both, number 1 and 2 corners in this class currently. Those are guys who are going to make you better. Would you rather go up against those guys in practice every day? Or would you rather go against, maybe some 3 stars here and there? Yeah, you'll have maybe a 5 star. But again, being around all that talent is what Ohio State is preaching right now. And it is selling like gold at the moment because every kid is responding to it. And again, right now there's a possibility Ohio State possibly lands 5 of the top 6 players in the country in terms of, you have the number 2 player in the country already in Tavien St. Clair. Ohio State's right there for the number 3 player in the country with David Sanders, right? You're basically just chipping away right now, and there is real talk that having that kind of level of goldsmanship and gold standard that's what Ohio State is breeding right now.
I feel like Hartline, right now he's in a position where I feel like it's easier for him to recruit like the 5-star, 4-star
Yep.
receivers than it is like a 3-star receiver. Just because it's like you come to Ohio State, you're gonna get maximized. Like these like lower caliber guys, like how am I even gonna compete here? Which obviously, they try to find those diamonds in the rough. I love that, they've went out. and got in Deshaun Stewart and Desi Jones from DePaul Catholic. That's my hometown, so I just got to shout them out
Yep.
real quick. Like DePaul Catholic, great school. But I guess, outside of like the positions we just discussed, a little bit of receiver and running back, what position is really the next target for Ohio State that they should be focusing on in this recruiting class?
Well, I mean, it's cliche to say, but it's always the offensive tackle position, right? I've been, for those who follow me on Twitter, I'm very vocal about my worries in Josh Fryer as a tackle, for Ohio State to be a national championship caliber team. I think we're fine on the other side. I think Simmons is, a quality tackle. I think I even saw something off PFF a couple weeks ago that Simmons only actually on like something ridiculous like 430 snaps plus basically last year. He only allowed like 2 QB pressures, right? So again, he's showing he's an elite tackle. But again, like Ohio State, I don't know if people realize it. Ohio State is right at the thick of it in terms of, and I'll tell you, it's kind of funny right now. You see that cringy video of Dabo Sweeney go viral the other day, right? Again, that kid is another, is another tackle for Clemson's class, and they're that's just another thing that points out to David Sanders, like, do I really want to be a part of this like program? He is a Carolina kid, but again, it's hard for a lot of players to connect with Dabo, and I think that ultimately makes it a little bit easier on the Buckeyes because every player loves Ryan Day. They have a great relationship with Day. Again, he's a very personable person. He's not awkward. He doesn't put you in awkward situations like you see all the time with Dabo.
Yeah.
So O tackle is always going to be it. It's just I think Justin Fry needs to bag his big shark.
The DJU, like, this is where you're gonna be throwing touchdowns video is gonna age so great when literally they play Clemson this year. If you were like that, like, I just want to point that out. But yeah, I just like I'm always excited for what Ohio State like brings in and stuff. I'm excited. I like Carter Lowe out of Toledo. Tackle. I think he's going to be pretty good. He's got a really good frame, 6'5", 290 pounds, and he's like an in-state kid. I just feel like once they kind of get working with him and stuff, I can definitely see him developing into a really good player for this team. So I think they definitely need at least another tackle for sure, though.
Well, Carter Lowe's right there, right? He's that borderline 5-star. He's teetering. I think he's only like 5 to 6 positions out of a 5-star spot. So he's right there. He's an elite tackle. But I think, when you look at Buckeye Nation, you look at where OG Walt's recruiting, you look at where Brian Hartline's recruiting, you're even looking right now, like we've never landed a modern day kid, never mind a modern day running back. Locke's pretty close to locking down Davison. It's really between us and Alabama. Justin Fry needs to land that, top 10, top 15 player in the country. Like Lowe's a great haul, but like at the same time, whether it was, Greg Studra or, obviously Justin Fry now, we've struggled to recruit elite tackles. You look at Paris Johnson Jr., he was always going to come to Columbus. It didn't matter who our O-line coach was. He was a Buckeye from the moment he grew up, right? Yeah, and again, this is kind of what you're seeing right now, right? We got a North Carolina kid, and obviously David Sanders. Fry, this would be a statement win for him on the recruiting trail. There's absolute statement win. So if he can get it done, I think it would turn a lot of Buckeye Nation's heads around, and we can admit it, right? There's been a lot of hardships and a little bit of head scratching into we thought Fry was going to be a lot better of a recruiter than Stud, but we're still waiting for him to land that big one. So I think if he can pull this one off, then he might have a little bit of leeway going into the next few cycles.
I know the Buckeyes are higher on him. I know he's only a 3-star right now, but obviously rankings change. But they're really higher on Henry Fanuco. They just said he's just a tough kid. Obviously, he's one of those. He goes to North Crawley High School in Fort Worth, which is a small Dallas school, so he's not getting all the publicity. But 6'4", 295. I mean, I've seen tape. He looks fine to me, but but he's also one of those project players, which you got to have those project players in this class as well. I think Justin Fry. I'm with you. I think David Sanders is going to flip and come to Ohio State. I know he's not committed to Georgia, but I think that crystal ball is going to flip to Ohio State, not only because of the cringy video, but I just think what Ohio State's going to they're going to lay the red carpet out for him, and I think with Ohio State's NIL, hell, the first 4 practices are open to the public, $50 a piece. Proceeds go to NIL. You don't see any other coaches schools doing that. So I think that's going to be huge for the Sanders kid. I'm not even. I mean, there's a lot of defensive players we could talk about. I'm not even worried about defensive backs. I know the Galloway kid from Marion Franklin is getting a lot of buzz.
Yeah.
I would suspect by the end of the month he's going to get an offer. Maybe even by the end of the weekend he'll get an offer. But my opinion, the Musket, and I love Dave Biddle and Jeremy Birmingham a lot. I listen to them every single day. And they both say that Justin, the Houston kid from Cincinnati, is probably the most important player that the Buckeyes need to get. And I'm right there with him. The kid is so good. And I think what's it? I'm just looking right at Justin Hill, and 6'3", 220 pounds, edge rusher / linebacker. The issue is obviously the jack position. We don't have a lot of tape out there. He reminds me of Baron Browning a lot, and I think, and they said that of this class, because they're not worried about everybody else, he's the most important player. I think he is going to end up a Buckeye because he wants to be a Buckeye. But do you agree with Berm and Dave Biddle and all those other recruiting gurus out there that he's the most important get for the Buckeyes right now?
I I would agree in some senses. I think there's a few other high priority targets. I think it's important for Larry Johnson to be able to show he can still recruit at an elite level, and Hill's an elite level player. Again, he's out of Winton Woods, right? So
Yeah.
he, played at the same school as Jermaine Matthews. Um, I won't give away too much, but he had an excellent past weekend with Ohio State. He's absolutely leading Ohio State right now. I would suspect this one to close up fairly shortly. Again, Ohio State again checked all the boxes. Larry Johnson still has, Hill. He's had a great relationship with Hill since he was basically a freshman. Again, I can't I can't see Ohio State losing this one at any point, which is why I don't have him as our highest priority target, who I think is probably a kid that Ohio State can't afford to lose is Trey McNutt. McNutt is absolutely feeling out the process, which is something you would never expect from, I had the chance to speak with McNutt. This would have been a couple of years back. And, he told me he grew up with Ohio State, bed covers and, in
His
Ohio
dad played for
State.
the Buckeyes, won a national
Right.
championship.
Absolutely, right. So it's a kid who, he's got Buckeye bed covers. He's got, his dad's jersey growing up. I think he's really someone who's feeling out the process. I think he's, doing his due diligence because, he's obviously a very smart kid and he's the number one safety prospect in the country at the moment.
Why
So
wouldn't you go on the trips too? Like you might
yeah.
as well go see the places while you can.
Well, and at the end of the day, it does not do anything to your NIL offer from the foundation or the collective of Ohio State just to go get wine and dine. You can go down to he just was out in USC the other weekend when all these big time commits were there. Go enjoy yourself, enjoy Hollywood, see what it's about. But at the end of the day, when you go to Columbus, it's a different vibe than going out to Cali and experiencing that West Coast life, right?
Really, go use their funds. Like
Yeah, sure.
go get the biggest steak from USC's funds and stuff. Get your wine,
Yeah.
like, whatever you want. Oh, you can't have wine, but you
I
know what I'm saying. Like, yeah, rack up a check somewhere else.
Yeah, get
Absolutely.
a 6 pack of
right
hot dogs in Ann Arbor because they can't cook anything there.
I
And you back some too.
right now he has no crystal balls, and they only have USC, Arkansas, Colorado, Florida, Georgia listed. However, is planning on visiting Ohio State. I expect Ohio State to be right in the mix for him. for Trey McNutt. I think he's a must get too.
I think
I
he's just
think
a leader. I like he's a leader. I think he's going to be a great
yeah.
leader of men.
And I think the reason why I said the Hill kid is because he's right there. Like he's almost commit. Once he gets that commit, I think the mindset will change. Because Ryan Day is a one step at a kind, and I don't see Tim Walton missing on a kid that's 2 hours
Also,
away.
like his last name is McNutt. Like we're the Buckeyes. Like we're a nut with like the branding he would be missing out
Sells
on.
itself. Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes sense.
Well, and it, like I said, Hill's different because, from what I've gathered, he's you may as well pretty well slot him in the class already. Like he's gonna pop at some point. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when, essentially at this point. McNutt's one, there's still work to be done in that sense. Um, McNutt's obviously, he's going to feel out the process. Some guys don't need to feel it out as much, right? So, all power to him. Enjoy those steak dinners, enjoy those 5-star wine and dines. You may as well, because you only get one recruiting process, right? So use
Yeah.
it up. Ohio State's NIL deal is not going anywhere. Same thing they've told David Sanders.
Cool. This comes from Caleb. I want to bring this up. Our buddy Caleb, who we'll get on the show eventually. This comes from Georgia Corey, who's at basically Ohio State's pass rush camp today. He's basically saying if he's a pass rusher, he'll be participating at the camp today. He won defensive MVP. Did that do anything to get him on the radar with the Buckeyes, or have you heard much about that?
There's a few kids that and I think the biggest thing that Ohio State's recruiting staff is preaching right now is they want to give you an offer for going to the camp and excelling. They want to see what's in front of their eyes, right? Everybody's got tape. Everybody, we talked about Fanuku. He's obviously, playing at a smaller school. Things can be deceiving on tape. So they want to see it with their own eyes. In Columbus, out at the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. They want to be able to test you, put you through their own little camp and see what you're made of. There's basically out of that camp already, there's been about 10 kids who've already have earned offers just from those camps alone, who were not necessarily on Ohio State's radar. Again, a few 2026 kids, even one or two 2027 kids. So there's been some really solid talent, I would say, at the camps. Kids who, I believe it was Georgia also had a camp this past weekend in Alabama. And, those were kids who didn't have offers from those kind of schools yet, and they chose to come to Columbus. So I think that's really telling it, where Ohio State's brand is, where their NIL collective's at. It's pretty important to, see those top level guys coming to show out there and offers from Ohio State before, those other power SEC schools. And obviously nobody seems to showing up as much right now with the camps in Ann Arbor, because it still sounds like there might be a few slaps on the wrist to come.
Yeah, you can't be 47th. I know they only got 5 commits right now, but you can't be 47th in the country and expect
After a national championship
after
year.
a national championship and expect to
Yeah.
win.
Basically, I mean,
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, sorry. I got my buddies texted me about the practices, so they got on sale this week, so that was my bad, and I was trying to read something as well. But I mean, so they had like 13 other schools, like MAC schools in Kentucky, and who Pitt was at these camps. How do you feel about that? Obviously, the Georgias, the Oregons, the Michigans, they're not going to come. How do you feel that Ohio State allows these other small schools to come in? And because Ohio State nobody puts on a bigger camp than Ohio State, in my opinion. Allowing these other schools to come in and look at, because they invite so many kids, even if you're in a recruiting battle with Kentucky or Pitt.
Well, it's not necessarily a bad thing, right? You look at Ohio State knows they're recruiting the cream of the crop. They're not worried about the same way, Isaiah West, the moment Ohio State liked what they saw from him, right? They weren't too worried about having a battle with Kentucky. And sure enough, he backed off his commitment. He's still held off at this time. He probably will end up a Buckeye very shortly. It's not necessarily a bad thing. You look at I think about a guy like Sam Wiggles, or I don't know if I'm pronouncing his last name right, Wiggles or
Yeah,
Wiggles.
for
Yeah,
OU.
but again, that's a kid Ohio State developed. He came to Ohio State, and at the chance, or sorry, in the class that had, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, he was in that mix of guys. How are you supposed to find field as if you're not a high level priority kid? So I think it's great. You send him to Ohio, and he's becomes a Bobcat. He lights it up because he's been developed under Brian Hartline. If anything, it's a testament to how good of a coach Hartline is, because the
Oh,
moment he
unreal.
goes to another school after never playing, all of a sudden he's a first team All American. Like, it's unbelievable, right? So again, you're looking at guys like that, and who Ohio State can pass along to the other schools. It's not necessarily a bad thing.
It's like Will Kazmarek, perfect example of a kid that went to all these Ohio State camps, but had to go to Ohio, develop a little bit, get bigger, stronger, and then now is able to come to Ohio State and probably is going to be, um, it will probably be the starting tight end for the
Oh,
Buckeyes.
well, what I found interesting too, on the radio, because I love the radio. I don't listen to really much podcasts anymore. I'm just strictly radio. I'm going old school. Um, Will Howard said though the guys he's bonded with most are Judkins, Will Kamarsik, and what's his name? Caleb Downs, like all and Seth McLaughlin, all the transfers. So like I think he has a good like relationship with him, Cass. So I can totally see him having a really good year. And by the way, happy Jake Ballard Day, everyone.
Well,
So
go ahead.
go ahead, finish before, because my last question is going to be kind of funny. It's going to be something to laugh about.
Sure, sure. Yeah, no, again, like, you come in as a transfer group, right? You got a guy from Ole Miss, you got a guy from Kansas State, you got a guy from Ohio, with the Bobcats. You have guys, and then obviously the Bama boys, right? And Downs and McLaughlin. You have guys from all around. They're coming in together for, one ultimate goal of obviously winning a national championship. It just goes to show you, though, where, guys are coming from in the transfer portal is absolutely anywhere and everywhere, right? So at this point, when you look at, having those relationships with other schools, it kind of pays off, because Ohio Bobcats are not winning a national championship anytime soon, right? So when you're able to have those other kids, have those other coaches, they're able to share the relationship with a certain player, it goes a long way, right? And now you look at Coach Key, right? Coach Key's going to have the opportunity to develop that tight end as well. So I'm sure he has a relationship. I don't know what his relationship is with the Ohio Bobcats, or Kent State or Toledo, but you gotta know they all talk, right? So it gives you a better sense of idea of what you're getting in that player, and if they do want to transfer to Ohio State, whether they're a good locker room guy, whether they're an established veteran presence in the room. All those things go a long way in terms of just coaches talking.
Quick note on Sam Wiggles. For those who don't know, he signed with the Rams as an undrafted free agent.
There you go.
Perfect spot for him.
Yeah.
Like if anyone can make a guy like that a good receiver, we know what McVay can
Sean
do,
McVay.
especially with his late round undrafted guys. So it's just a great spot. Don't be surprised if he catches like a touchdown or two this year. I could totally see him making the team and making an impact.
He's got
Well,
a little bit of Cooper Cup in his game.
yeah, yeah.
Sneaky athletic.
Yeah.
There is one recruit. We had him on a few weeks ago. I mean, this kid keeps flipping left and right, left and right. Baby Gronk. This kid, we had him on. Seemed like a nice kid. His dad was really, really nice, but I
Apparently
mean,
should be on a watch list according to Josh Pate.
I
Yeah.
I mean, there's some watch lists that he should be on, but he seemed like he was a nice kid. His dad was really nice. I get I get the passion his dad wants to have him for, but woo, he flipped what 3 times today. Now he's committed to Pitt. Um, where do you think his next flip will be? I mean, Dan and I make that bet every day, so we got to ask an outsider on this one.
You know what? At this point, I hope he ends up in Michigan. I hope he ends up in Ann Arbor. I think he would fit the mold in terms of, no loyalty. Look at Jim Harbaugh, right? Absolutely zero loyalty to that program. I think that baby Gronk, he would be able to help lead them to what they think is going to be a Big Ten championship. And the next week he could be on Alabama's radar mid-season. So I think it'd be great. I think he could tear the walls down inside Ann Arbor, and it would be awesome.
I feel like tomorrow he'll be a Mountaineer. That's my prediction.
If we're
I'm
if we're really guessing, let's go SMU.
Oh, I like that one.
There we go.
I mean it's been quite a comedian. I put on the Slack chat as like it's like, and I told Dan this too. It's like tracking your Domino's pizza right now. Like you order your Domino's pizza and it's just like tracking it. It's like giving you updates.
Do you guys find that the app's always stuck on, like, I just always find that it's stuck on still baking, and then 10 minutes later, I get a knock on the door. I was like, I thought this thing's been in the oven the last hour and 10.
I feel like they just make them all like a 40-minute like run time. Like it's all
Yeah.
it always runs the same. They're actually not changing it step by step.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, that's all I've got in recruiting. It's a huge. I love this month of football recruiting. Get to see high school kids. I was telling Dan and I was telling my wife this, and I'm a high school broadcaster, but there might be a few weeks where I might take a step back so I can make the hour-and-a-half trip to Bell Fountains, see Tavien St. Clair play.
Oh, absolutely.
He's not far from you and I, Dan.
No, I know. He's like literally like I think like 15 minutes away. I'm making the trip for sure. I don't know which game. I don't know the schedule. I don't know. But
I,
there's
I had the chance to talk to one of my sources who's pretty close with Jim Tressel, and Tressel and Urban had the chance to go look at Tavien St. Clair last season at a high school game together, and then they got to meet him again for the, like, face to face, obviously inside the Woody, and they said it like in terms of the physical build, like it was even more impressive to them to see St. Clair than it was when they saw Terrell Pryor for the first time. So that's pretty high praise.
his comps are insane. It's like Justin Fields and like I think they said Terrell Pryor, right? Like, I think that
Physically, he's way bigger than Fields. Physically, he looks more like the Pryor build out of high school, but even a little bit more muscly and
Cam Newton.
defined. Yeah, he's a pure mutant. And honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised. There is some serious talk going on right now between 247 on three rivals, all the major sites that may have St. Clair end up as the number one player in this class if he continues to develop this way. Bryce Underwood is he's a fabulous football player. He's the Michigan QB who says that he threw a shot at Michigan the other
Nope.
week. But he's a pretty frail guy. He's got more of a frame looking kind of like Lamar Jackson, coming out of high school, obviously. Tavien St. Clair looks the part of, that NFL QB build and frame. I think he's about, 215, 220, 6'4" 4.5. This, I was told by another guy that he actually was 6'5" already, which is pretty incredible to think from a kid going into his senior year.
That's wild. It's gonna kick us off in 5 seconds, but thank you for coming on, Carson. That's all I got. And go